The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is Hunter Mayat, your podcast host. Big thanks to Ugo the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to another action-packed, fun-filled show. Today, we bring you all the way back to the hallowed halls of the 90s, in which a little-known comic, you may have heard of it, called Starman, graced the shelves. The Starman comic had the beautiful painted covers that drew your attention immediately to them, and those covers were created by none other than today's guest, Andrew Robinson. Andrew is a really cool comic creator, really nice guy. Dropped in and talked about his career, about his life, some of the hardships he experienced recently towards the end. We'll get into that. You'll have to listen, but he's doing the best he can with a bad situation, which you will talk about in the interview. Not that I need to tantalize you if you're listening this far. You plan to listen to the episode, but I just want to give it all away. Let it come naturally in the conversation. So I just wanted to thank Andrew for being on the show. It was really, really nice to get to chat with him. Those comics were certainly eye-catching to me as a kid, and those covers were a big part of that. And Andrew is an amazing artist, very talented guy, and doing some amazing work. So I'm very excited to have him on the show. I hope your summer's going well. I hope things are going well for you. As always, I'm rushed for time. I'm trying to cram everything in. So I'm not going to do a big, long intro. Someday I'll get to one. I'll expound on the philosophical tenets that shaped me as a person. But that is not today. Today, you're going to just get to listen to this wonderful interview with one Andrew C. Robinson. Enjoy.
I'm originally from Florida. I live in Los Angeles, and I met somebody this year, and we're quite in love with each other. But she
Oh,
just got a job here in Auburn at the university.
oh, lovely. What is
Yeah.
what do they do there?
She teaches architecture.
A different type of art.
Right. Yes.
I always find it interesting to, because like art's such a broad sense, and like architecture is such an interesting sort of, very realistic, practical way to look at it in such a way that it has to be functional yet also beautiful. When with like the other forms of art can kind of just be beautiful. So
Right.
yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for being on the show, Andrew. It's really cool to have you on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Sorry for all the delays. It's
Oh,
just been a crazy year, and
you don't say.
my my mind's been all over the place.
Oh, that's all right. I appreciate you being on. Um, so you said you're from Florida originally?
Yeah.
Well, what part?
St. Augustine.
Oh, is that, I don't know, I'm familiar with St. Augustine.
It's on the upper East Coast,
Okay.
in between Jacksonville and Daytona Beach.
Oh, nice.
And it's actually the oldest city in the United States.
You know what? I think I host trivia sometimes here in the town I live in. I'm in Canada, Nova Scotia, and I think I may have asked that question before. That's why I was like something about it was ringing in my head somewhere. Interesting. Were comics a part of your childhood growing up?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I wasn't like a serious collector or anything.
hmm
I grew up like on the outskirts of St. Augustine, farming potatoes. And I had never, like in my childhood, I'd never been to an actual comic shop. But if I went to the convenience store, it just would whatever happened to be on the rack at convenience stores, 7-Eleven, what have you.
hmm
And I would just kind of flip through the rack and go for characters that I liked if they had Spider-Man or the Hulk or Batman, Superman. those are my choices, or Iron Man, but it's pretty random.
Hmm.
Like I said, just whatever they had on the rack at the convenience store.
I feel like those are the like because I've talked to lots of like I was like that too growing up, and I feel like it gives you such a wide range. Like if you're just happy to have comics, but your options are like when you go to the spinner racks, they kind of have like a range of the popular heroes. You're not getting like,
Right.
a Robert Crumbrook or something. But you're gonna get to like check out the one, so it gives you kind of a broad range of what's popular as a kid and kind of gives you like a real snapshot of what is the big books at the time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So were you always a drawer as well? Like were you always creating art?
Yeah, like always, sketching, doodling, whether in church or at school. Um, yeah, around all my notes were just little cartoons and drawings and a lot of Star Wars
Yeah.
characters and stuff like that.
Well, you say you grew up on a farm, potato farm?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's a new story for me when it talks to like comic book people about their origin stories. It's rare that farming comes up, and even rare that like a potato farm comes up. That's
Yeah.
wow.
Well,
So
it's not like it wasn't for, we weren't farming baking potatoes. It
hmm
was more like the sort of the cheaper russet potatoes, mainly meant for potato chips and French fries.
hmm
So like Frito-Lay was the big buyer
wow.
when we were farming.
Interesting. Were your folks like supportive of, you being interested in art, or do they just think it was sort of a side something that you did to pass the time as a kid?
Oh no, they were definitely supportive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's easy to stereotype the like some kind of farming parents that are just like we're farmers, you'll be a farmer, and that's
Right.
that's how
Right.
it goes.
Yeah, luckily, my older brother farmed with my dad, and my younger brothers did too. So my dad maybe didn't understand it, but he supported me and knew that I had some talent, and but he also said, "Hey, you can go to art school, art college." He's like, "But I'm going to do you a favor." He's like, "I'm not giving you one dime for college." And he's like, "You're going to figure this out on your own." And in hindsight, that was the right decision.
Oh,
Um, I got a 50% scholarship to SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design, which I was really excited about. I thought it was great, and I was like, okay, this is awesome. I've got half of it covered. But, going out of state, private art school still is pretty expensive even back then.
mhm.
So I joined the reserves and um, had the GI Bill and was able to, get everything covered on my own, and
Well,
which made college a lot more fun because, when you're going to college and doing what college kids do and going to parties and playing rugby and that kind of stuff, I got to enjoy myself, and I knew if I failed, at least I didn't face my father.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like, so I could really enjoy having a good time knowing that, hey, if you screw it up, this is on you, and I don't have to face dad when I go home.
yeah, but also
Uh,
like the you've earned it, Like I
yeah.
suppose, like I don't want to diminish the accomplishments of people that get full scholarships or whatever, but like to put in the work, it's like working hard as a kid to get that thing you want. Like you work a job, working raking blueberries or something, and you finally get the money to buy the pair of shoes you want or something. It means more because you've earned it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but also like it must have been quite a to go from like, the high school experience to like the reserves and then going into an art school must have been a very, very interesting kind of shift.
Yeah, you kind of walk in a weird line between,
Yeah.
conformity with the military and then nonconformist. Usually artists are nonconformist,
Oh yeah.
which I think is great. But
hmm
yeah, it was like going back and forth and sort of playing different roles depending on where you're at and trying to find yourself somewhere in the middle.
hmm Did you find like the regiment that comes from being in the military gave you something like toward like gave you sort of a focus when it came to your art, or was it something that you had to sort of break so that you could find that creative sort of spark?
Um, I don't regret it. It was kind of a pain sometimes. Basic training wasn't all that fun.
hmm
Um, But I did enjoy playing sports. I played soccer in high school. And so to continue running, in the military, uh, that summer between high school and college, was really good for me. It was, I enjoyed running and I enjoyed it more as I was getting older.
Mhm.
And then on my second part of, you go to basic training for the basics, learn to shoot a M16 and throw a few grenades and kind of like battle skills.
Yeah.
And then you go to your advanced training, and my advanced training was in Fort Lee, Virginia, and I was going to be a petroleum specialist. And while I was there, I was able to join like a cross country team and just continue enjoying, being somewhat of an athlete. And then once I got to SCAD, I was in really good shape and started playing rugby. And so
Awesome.
there's a nice connection and a bridge between both worlds was, sports
Okay.
and running and you know
I'm
just
curious.
quasi taking care of yourself.
Though very important. Also, something artists aren't necessarily great at sometimes. So, depending on the artist, I suppose. But I'm just curious. I don't want to hammer too much on your time in the military, but like, do they when you're in basic training, do they just sort of discover you have an aptitude for something and decide to put you in petroleum, or is it just they needed
Uh,
people for that and you just fit a role they needed?
no, there's a test called the ASVAB
Hmm.
test, and you take that test before you go in, and then the military kind of knows what you're suited for, or
Ah, okay.
you know, like you have to score a certain number on the ASVAB test to say go in the nuclear program, for instance.
Ah, okay.
Whereas if you're just going to be a regular, just a grunt, on the ground, you can score pretty low. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, petroleum's interesting. I mean, obviously, America's interest in that is, in a lot of foreign conflicts is pretty important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that was the conflict I was sent over for was, connected to petroleum, Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, before I went over there, we switched our job from petroleum to water purification,
Ah.
which at the time I was kind of complaining about. It's like, oh, more schooling. So my reserve weekends while I was at college, I started studying water purification. Not exactly excited about it, but I have to say, like, once I got over to Saudi Arabia where we were stationed and out in the middle of the desert and dealing with cleaning water versus dealing with pumping gas, I was very thankful, very blessed that we
Yeah.
changed over to water.
Yeah, I'll say. I was talking to a guy in my town here who runs a company that just makes a lot of makeshift canvas pool covers and stuff like that. I guess is like their bread and butter is like all these unique because all these different types of pools that there he makes unique bespoke pool covers. And he was telling me he's been doing this thing for many, many, many years. And he told me actually during Desert Storm, his company got contracted to make I think it was sandbags that had to like match the landscape.
All right, yeah.
And he had to make like I can't remember how many it was. It was a ridiculously high amount. It was like 10,000 or a million. I don't know, something. But maybe not a million, but it was a lot, 100,000 or something. And basically just when he had completed the contract is when Desert Storm was ended, and he didn't need to end up using them, but the military did take them and use them for I think something to do with hurricane control or something
Right,
eventually.
right,
So, but he told me at the time he had to keep it quiet because if anyone knew his factory here in like Nova Scotia could be a target, right?
right, right, of
So
course.
just sort of interesting stuff like that. Um, wow. Well, so going into art school, did you have a focus? Because I know you like your art is kind of you do various forms, but painting is something you're a part of as well. Was that like what you went
Right.
in for, or was it kind of just a broad art?
Um, looking back, I kind of wish that I would have just focused on painting,
Hmm.
that I would have been a painting major. But it seemed to make more sense to go in for illustration,
Hmm.
to be lined up to hopefully get a job, doing magazine, book covers, what have you. I didn't have a plan to like get into comics. That was not the plan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was basically just going for a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in illustration. And even, when I was my illustration teachers, the beginning of the class, they would have a list of things of genres and motifs and subject matter they did not want to see.
Oh, really?
So like we don't want to see daggers, swords, scantily dressed women,
Uh,
wizards, dragons, skulls.
uh,
You And I mean, they had a point. They're trying
yeah.
to get you to be maybe a little more mature and maybe get out of the box that you were in and I suppose I guess try to reach more of a mature market outside of boys' fantasies, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wonder how many people going into those programs like are just Frazetta wannabes, right? And it's like this is, they grew up with that and that's what they want to, or
Yeah,
Conan and all that sort of stuff. So they just want to
yeah,
like get
exactly.
into that world. That's really
Um,
funny. I
yeah, and so it wasn't until my senior year, and I had a couple of electives left to fill out, my curriculum. And there was comic book one and comic book two. So I started with number one. And in that class, like I met probably who I thought was the most talented artist I'd met since I'd been at SCAD was in that class. And we became friends, and he kind of was ahead of the curve. He was somebody who definitely had a plan
Mhm.
and really knew what they were doing. And like he was already working, I think he was doing some Hellblazer stuff at the
Oh,
time.
really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember asking him, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, are we supposed to be working right now? And he kind of looked at me, he just said, well, think about it. He said, you're paying these professors or the school to give you assignments, right? And then you do the assignment. Like they don't do it for you, you do
Hmm.
it. They might grade you on it or give you pointers. He's like, or you can work for an editor or an art director and they also give you an assignment, you do it. They might have some changes or, some notes, and then they pay you,
Hmm.
you know. And he's like, that's how it works. I said, oh, right, okay.
Wow.
And he took me on a trip to Atlanta, and he knew uh, all the guys who were at Gaijin Studios at that time. Adam Hughes, Brian
Wow.
Stelfreeze, Dave Johnson, Tony Harris, Cully Hamner, Jason Pearson.
Wow.
So he took me there, and I met all of them, and was like seeing all of them work and their studio and how they're working. I was watching Brian Stelfreeze paint.
Oh, man.
And, and then between him and my friend Doug, they're showing me how to set up models and lighting and take photo reference and how you kind of get that, if you're going to be a painted artist, how to get that edge to, that edge of realism, not to
Mhm.
be a slave to the photos, but to use them to guide you and help you and give you a base of realism. And then you can play off of that. And I'm telling you, I mean, I learned a lot at SCAD, of course, but it seemed like I got a whole nother degree
Hmm.
just by hanging out with Doug and then going to Gaijin and then going to other studios.
Wow.
But as it worked out, I left black and white copies of my most recent like comic book work and illustration work I was doing for the paper in Savannah. And Cully Hamner had a little short story that he's supposed to do for Dark Horse Presents, and he couldn't do it because I think he was just got signed on at DC to draw the Green Lantern Corps.
Mm. Right. Yeah.
And so he sent my samples over to Dark Horse, and Randy Stradley saw them and gave me the short story in Dark Horse Presents. And I did it while I was still in school. And I did that, got it in on time. It wasn't the best, but I was like kind of like just learning as I was going. And um, that was good enough to get another job, another short story with Dark Horse Presents. And at the same time, my friend Doug, um, he introduced me to White Wolf Studios there in Atlanta. And so then I started doing the gaming illustration as well. So I kind of started both comics and gaming illustration, fantasy at the same time.
That's amazing. And then you were drawing daggers and so and skulls and
Exactly. Yeah, then I was
yeah,
drawing all this stuff they were telling me not to
and
draw
wolves and dragons and yeah,
and getting
'cause-
paid to do it, you know?
yeah, that's hilarious. Wow, that's quite a circle, man. Wow, like just that's a who's who of like amazing comic book creators. Like Coley Hamner is awesome. I mean, all those guys
Yeah.
are fantastic.
Yeah, and again,
Um,
I'm very blessed that they, you know, they helped me and gave me a shot. Like they just gave me a little crumb, but I just needed a little crumb to get started, you
Yeah.
know?
Wow. Yeah, and talking about like the reference for, I remember even just like reading Wizard as a kid and seeing like, I don't know, I think it was in Wizard or something, and it was like Alex Ross talking about his process, and they were showing like, a roommate or a friend of his with like says, holding like a broom handle and doing something, and then showing that how that turned out to be, something he'd done for like his Kingdom Come or something, or
Right.
I think it was like just some guy with his hands on his hips doing the classic Shazam pose from Kingdom Come. And you're like, it just looks like this silly guy standing there doing this dumb pose, and then you see what came of it, and how
Right.
it's literally just like the form, and the rest is the
Mhm.
artist, right? Adding onto it. So, wow, that's amazing. So right into Dark Horse, cool. That's very unique. And did the relationship with Dark Horse continue that way for a while?
Yeah, I did two short stories, a little bit of barbed wire,
Hmm.
um, and then moved on to working a lot more for DC Comics. But I would eventually go back to Dark Horse to paint the Fifth Beatle.
Right. Well, how did the DC work come about? Is that just like they contact you, you put your flag out there and say you're looking for work, and whatever comes comes, or?
Became, I guess, not great friends with Tony Harris, but again, through my friend, this one friend, Doug,
Hmm.
at college, like just seemed to know everybody, and through him, I just made all these like great connections. And Tony had gotten me like a little 3-page segment to do on Starman. That was somewhat like mid 90s. And
Hmm.
then towards the end of the 90s, I ended up joining his studio there in Macon, Georgia. And he got me the painted cover gig for Starman.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, like 99 through like 2000, maybe 2001, 2002, I was doing painted covers, monthly for Starman, which really put me on the scene as far as like a painted cover artist. I mean, yeah, it helped my career a ton.
Yeah, those covers are beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like I mean, Starman for what it is like when you look at like some of the top superhero comics in Starman, it's always in that conversation, and for good reason. It's excellent,
Right.
and those covers were like I think like to me anyway as a kid looking at them a key part to their draw potential to me. Like seeing
Yeah.
that cover was enough to draw you in and want you to see more. So. Um, that's super cool. Well, I did notice somewhere, and you can correct me if this is wrong, that you'd worked on uh, Chain Gang. Is a Chain Gang War for DC? Was that an early comic?
I did. I was inking Dave Johnson.
Was it inking? Okay, because I noticed that it was working with John Wagner. I was just curious if you had any connection, or did you discuss any? Did you talk with him or have interaction
No, it was mainly just through Dave
through Dave?
Johnson with the connection.
Okay.
And then later I would ink Dave Johnson on Superman Red Sun.
Oh wow, right, yes, of course. Wow. Wow, quite a storied history. That's awesome. So after the Starman work, what was the next thing?
Let's see. Then I went on to like painted Hawkman covers,
Hmm.
um, some Batman detective covers, uh, JSA. Then it led into just covers at also at Marvel. Yeah, back to Dark Horse doing some Star Wars covers.
Wow. So what is I guess when you're contracted to do a cover for one of these comics, like what is the time frame that you're given to produce it roughly? I guess it's different per each company, but
Um, I mean, I think for like the Starman covers, you know. the rate was so good for the painted covers, and then it's your time to shine. So I was really trying to put in at least a solid week,
Mm.
on one of those paintings. And again, this is also as far as like history and a time frame. This is just before everybody learns Photoshop.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like
So
the
when I was painting those covers, everything, every effect and everything that you're doing with lighting and shade and special effects and the kind of magic you're trying to put into a painting, you're having to do, you know, again, by hand.
Mhm.
So
Do you
uh,
have you adopted did you ever delve into the digital or do you stick to the traditional
I,
style?
I I did, and
Uh-huh.
I'm glad that I did also because you find that you had this moment in time where you can learn this new
Hmm.
technology, which seems a little overwhelming and scary at the time. Or you can choose not to, but I realized like if I'd have chose not to, you're really just, you're cutting yourself off from so much work.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, 100%.
yeah. And again, it's, I can go back to like when your deadline was when FedEx closed or when,
Well,
you
yeah, I was
know,
gonna ask that. Like, so when you're creating the hand art, like this is, I guess, in the 90s and 2000s, email and stuff. But like, how big would your original piece be? Would you have to send the original piece in for them to scan and prepare for the
right?
covers?
Yeah.
Or yeah, okay, so
Yeah. Yeah. Pieces that are like, like sometimes 13 by 20 inches for the paintings.
mhm.
Um, yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about, yeah, all that art that we were shipping and sometimes things were damaged and, you know,
Yeah, I never hear much about, and I always wonder that because I've talked to folks, from a little further back in the process where they would have to do that. You'd send mountains of paperwork, all across the country through FedEx or whatever, and it's rare that I've heard someone say they lost a whole issue or something, right? Like you'd think at some point something like that would have happened, like
right.
something would get lost off a truck somewhere or whatever, and it wouldn't make it to where it goes, and the comic has to be redone. And what a nightmare that would be.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
because not only are you shipping like paintings in to the office to get scanned, then you're also pencilers are shipping pencil pages to inkers, and then
exactly.
inkers shipping pencil pages to the office to get scanned and sent to the colors of the time. And
Yeah. Wow.
yeah,
Just mountains of comics just zigzagging across the United States and Canada. That's so wild. Well, do you like would they sent I assume they sent you back the artwork so you would or do they keep it? How does that process work? The originals.
no, they would send it back. Yeah,
All right,
after they
cool.
scanned it and um, it seemed like maybe a few weeks after they received it, scanned it, they'd mail it back.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's the one thing about this new boom of digital, art. I mean, obviously it's faster, and a lot of things like that, but a lot of comic artists will tell me they still keep a hand in, the the physical realm because obviously it gives them final products they can resell later.
That's true.
Which is
But
a whole
then for some artists though who work digitally, they've told me that because there's less of their art out there, they can charge more for the pieces that they do make
really
analog.
interesting.
Right. So, I mean, I guess there's a balance there.
And I mean, you can do prints, you can number prints, or you can do whatever, and put your stuff out there too. I guess it's less, you probably charge less, but you can create more, I suppose, right? So
Right.
there's that option too. Um, Very cool. So it's mostly in the cover realm. Like, have you done? Because looking just sort of at some of the things you do, I saw you worked in Justice League Unlimited, and was that in a cover sense, or is that in interiors as well?
That was covers, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that run because that was the Justice League Canada in quotes.
Right.
Yeah, as a Canadian, you draw it whenever you see anything that's kind of Canada themed. The one thing I thought was hilarious about it was like none of them were Canadian. I think that maybe one character was in the book, so
Right.
I got a kick out of that as well. Um, Very cool. Well, like when it comes to the painted cover sort of world, to my mind, I couldn't. I've had J.K. Woodward on here who also does is works in that realm. But it seems like it's not a broad, maybe it's just my ignorance, but it's not a broad range of people that are producing these like really stylized painted looking covers. Is there like, do you guys have a community or is it just you're all kind of doing your own thing?
Uh, I mean, I suppose there is a community, but um, for me, I kind of know a few of the guys and gals that, make painted covers. But I mean, I don't know. There are just so many great artists coming up, and whether they're painting digitally or physically, yeah, there's just a lot of amazing work out there,
Yeah.
and also like a diversity of styles as well. Some people more painterly and a little more artsy, and others, more polished and more realistic.
Mhm.
So it's a nice range.
Well, like when I talked to with Woodward, he mentioned that like, because early on he'd done many covers that are supposed to, like Star Trek covers. So all the characters are photorealistic renditions of what the actors look like on the Star Trek
Right.
show. Like, and he kind of got, I wouldn't say pigeonholed, but he said it's sort of like he was the paintings that look like the people, like real life people kind of
Yeah.
guy, and got a lot of work in that. Did you feel like you had got some kind of a niche in that regard? Is it just with the heroic poses, the colors, something to that effect that was like you were known for that, or was it a more broader
I mean,
type of?
I'm hoping that I was known for maybe hopefully some interesting composition and um, design oriented layouts and montage sort of pieces.
Mhm.
I think those are the most fun for me. Though I've done like some just straight up just sort of a action scene, whereas others a bit more designy and maybe a grid to it and um, design motifs and patterns and like I said, a montage of, big heads and things fading and on top of each other and let's see, like what do they call it? Um, double exposure, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
The editorial process must be interesting when it comes to paintings. I feel like altering paintings, if there are design requests from your editor, would be quite a bit more work than the average sort of illustrative work.
Yeah, like a couple times paintings came back for Starman for different reasons and paintings had to be altered, which yeah, is definitely a pain because sometimes trying to cover up an area, especially if you've done stuff in, say, watercolor. Well, once I have to like go and cover up a piece of watercolor, the process is going to look different, because I have to then go opaque where when you're doing a watercolor, it's supposed to be transparent. That's what
Mm,
makes a watercolor look like a watercolor.
right.
So yeah, there's definitely areas, levels of difficulty, when you're trying to change a painting and
Mm.
but if you're changing paintings now, it's a bit easier, obviously, with Photoshop and using the clone tool or cutting stuff out and adding stuff. And
Is that the medium you work in, like when you're doing the digital stuff? Is it still within Photoshop, or are you using one of these other drawing programs like Procreate or something to that effect?
I think I've used, what did I used? Um, one of the painter programs, but I would use it in conjunction with Photoshop.
Hmm.
But mainly these days it's just Photoshop, and I try to do as much as I can physically and keep the photoshopping to a minimum if I can.
Mm. Well, like anything, it's
For painting that is.
mm,
But I enjoy sometimes just doing black and white line art or maybe line art with gray tones and then just going in for, Photoshop colors is fun.
yeah. Oh, very cool. Do you have a preferred like I see you worked on the multiversity guidebook, which is pretty cool. I really dug what they done with that and the like Morrison's kind of building out of this rich multiverse, which seems to be something that they are leaning into in the film side of things. So like working on that must have been interesting. Was there much um I guess direction because like with a guy like him that's sort of or the people that are in charge of running that that sort of world, that edge of the DC universe where they're building up this expansive multiverse. Like, is there a lot of voices coming at you with a lot of things that they require, or is there a lot of
Well,
up
hold
to
on,
you?
you have to refresh my memory.
Oh,
It's it's a project that I'm forgetting about.
it's the Multiversity Guidebook. It was like you're listed as it online. Maybe you didn't have a hand in it, but it was um like when
Oh,
they had.
I feel like I did a Western group shot of
Oh,
the
okay.
characters in their sort of Western, the Old West
Hmm.
attire.
Yeah.
That's probably what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was sort of building out this multiverse that they're building in the DC
R-
universe. So,
Right.
do you have a preferred like? I guess the beauty of comics is that you have this wide range, and the as you mentioned before, comics were a focus when you're just looking at doing commercial art. Um, did you have a preferred thing that you could work on? Like, were you like, if it's space, like, yeah, was it superheroes? Was it anything to that effect?
Um, I have a pretty good range, but I'm finding now that as I'm older, and especially after doing a book like The Fifth Beatle,
Hmm.
where it was a lot of research into actual places
Mm,
and people and times and the fashion and everything of the time. That just gets like labor intensive. And so probably from here on out, I just want to do very fantasy oriented,
mm.
environments, I would say.
A lot less need to adhere to a very rigid sort of structure by what actually
Right,
existed at the time.
right.
Oh, how was working on that project? I mean, that was a. I mean, Epstein is a very interesting character. Brian Epstein, let's be specific, is a very interesting character in the in the world of music. So bringing that story to life must have been a very kind of. You mentioned exhaustive as far as the artwork goes, but it must be neat to kind of create something in that world. The world of the Beatles, which obviously has such a following.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, to have an attachment to the Beatles, that was certainly a big deal for me. I mean, um, I was a little bit after the Beatles when I grew up, but still, through the 70s and 80s and 90s, even still now, I mean, I feel like they're still pretty relevant.
Mm.
But especially when I was younger and I was a teenager, uh, you know, like the Sergeant Pepper's album, I listened to a lot as a kid. And yeah, this project was, yeah, it was certainly challenging and because a lot of it was based on subtleties. There wasn't a lot of, or hardly any like actual action to be illustrating. So it's a lot of talking heads and, the business of being a manager and managing the Beatles and this kind of stuff. So it was quite a challenging to make the pages and scenes look as exciting as possible. And so you really get into like shooting different angles for talking scenes and where people are located and making the backgrounds interesting and the lighting and shadows and
I feel like working on those projects like these biopic kind of comics must be almost like cinematographer, like being a cinematographer for a film, because you're
right.
kind of doing angles. You're trying to get people at their most expressive in the story, trying to be honest to the story, but also make it roll in a way that's easy to follow. And so I feel like you probably would take a lot of, like, I guess as someone that works in the painting world, do you take a lot of inspiration from film, from cinematography, from that sort of stuff?
Sure, definitely. I mean, um, not just cinematography, but photographers and a lot of inspiration from the Blue Note jazz covers.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Wow. I actually I just my local record store is the guy that runs it is closing because he I literally listened to him talk to a guy in the store today for like 10 minutes about how he just sort of fell out of love for music. And when you work in a record store for like 15 years, you just sort of like you can't, sometimes you just can't enjoy music anymore. And he's
right.
sort of he's sort of older and he just wanted to retire. The store's doing well, but he just couldn't do it. So he's been kind of liquidating some of his merchandise. I've been picking up a lot of these old jazz records. Um, but I was looking at a few of those in there. That's actually really cool. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it's some of the most like cutting edge graphic design I think you'll find out there. Like
Mm.
just breaking the rules slightly, pushing things to the edge, doing things that you wouldn't think would work, like things they tell you not to do, but yet they're doing it and making it work and getting away with it. And
That's
um,
interesting. I whenever someone brings up something like that, I always think of John Waters, and he once said that like because he's known for making these sort of tasteless in quotes movies, and he says in order to do something in bad taste, you need to know what is good taste. Like in order to
yeah,
break rules, you need to know the rules and understand them well
exactly.
enough to break them, but still make it work, right?
Yeah,
So it takes a true master to do something that's like outside of the norm and make it work when it
right.
breaks the so-called rules. Um,
Yeah, there's a great book out there, and it's the collection of the Blue Note covers.
hmm,
So it's a square bound book, and it's got the covers from the 50s through the 60s, maybe like into the early 70s.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're going to be a graphic designer and you don't have the money for school, just buy that book.
Hmm.
I
That's
think that's all
awesome.
you need. Just get that book.
Well, I'm a graphic designer. I did go to school, but man, I feel like I need to pick this book up now and check it out. I love looking at one of my favorite things to look at is like Art Deco poster books, like all these designs from that time period. It's not really my style, but it's one I emulate and really like. Um, because it's just such a beautiful, symmetrical, everything looks so wonderful. And sometimes when it kind of overlaps with comics, it's always kind of neat. Every once in a while, it seems to have some kind of resurgence, and they sort of incorporate it into comic work here and there. Um, Very cool. Well, was that I was just doing a tiny amount of research on the Fifth Beatle book, and was that in conjunction with Rolling Stone that came out? Were they involved with that, like the magazine?
I think we might have been mentioned in Rolling Stone.
Okay. It mentioned something on a site I was at that it was in connection like the 10th anniversary of their magazine. Um, but neat. Did you have like how as far as the because that got adapted into a show too, right? Didn't it? Was it the graphic novel that got adapted into one?
There was talk of a show, but I don't think that's happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah,
I believe there's been talks about a show or a movie. Um, but at this point, it's just talk.
yeah. That's well, that'd be interesting. I mean, I remember there's a pro radio program that they do a podcast version of here at CBC called Under the Influence, where they talk about marketing. And it's kind of interesting if you're involved in that world. Graphic design is kind of in that, where they kind of talk about these different trends and all these interesting things about marketing through the years. And they've done a whole one on the Beatles and on Epstein, and it was very interesting. And the guy has a very very interesting story. So it must have been quite a fun project. Also, it's kind of a dark story, so fun
Right.
and but a human one too, right? Like the mistakes he made and how it kind of led to his suicide, or
Right.
well, yeah, most people assume suicide. Um,
It, I guess on the surface, maybe it looks a bit like suicide, but I think it's that road that a lot of people in entertainment, whether music or actors or um, directors, writers, what have you, it's that, you start chasing that dragon and you have to chase other dragons to deal with the dragon that you're chasing. If you're on uppers all day and then you need to go to sleep at night, then you have to like get those downers, and the heart can only take so much. I think it can take one thing at a time. Like you can either slow it down or you can speed it up. But if you try to speed it up and slow it down at the same time, that's just, you know, it doesn't end well. I mean, I,
no.
I think that's like the demise of like, say, Jim Morrison, John Belushi, you
Oh,
know.
Elvis probably. Like there's quite a few of them that
Yeah,
were
yeah,
on a lot of
exactly.
things like
Exactly.
that.
It's like you're taking speed, but then you're taking all these pain pills, and
Mm.
Elvis is, straining on the toilet, and like the king of rock and roll dies in his bathroom, sadly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, it's a big part of music history, so it must have been neat to be a part of that. And obviously, it won a few Harvey Awards and some other things. It was nominated for Harvey Awards. Um,
Yeah, we won a Harvey and an Eisner.
wow, that must have been cool. Was
Yeah.
that was that your first connection to those two? Like as far as being in the
It
convention for that?
was, yeah.
Wow, that must have been very cool. Awesome. Well, what's the recent work? What are you working on nowadays?
I've got a hardback out for a book that I co-created with Lee Lowridge called Standstill.
Hmm.
And it's painted covers by me for the book. And also I um, penciled and inked the first three issues and part of the fourth.
Hmm.
But sadly, just due to, I don't know, a lot of stuff going on, I was not able to finish the rest of the book, but we had another great artist come in and finish. Um,
What's the story about it? What's Stanso about?
it's kind of like a tech noir
Nice.
story. Um, and the plot device is this device that can stop time.
Hmm.
But obviously we have some rules and stuff that, you have to abide by when stopping time. But yeah, so it's a crazy, crazy story with a little bit of a, like science tech involved and
Hmm. That's really cool.
yeah.
Do you have like a reverence for that sort of the sci-fi genre, the tech noir, like the Blade Runner kind of aesthetic?
I do. Yeah.
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 Well, it's one of the most beautiful things to look at, in my opinion. I love that sort of that world. So I'll have to check that out. That sounds really cool. Have you watched the new Disney Alien show, Alien Earth, that just came out?
I just watched the first episode
So
last
did
night.
I.
I was really impressed.
Me too. I really like that they stick to the futuristic but also retro looking equipment.
Exactly. Yeah, they stay in that world of
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah, it bothers me when you watch like a Star Trek prequel show and everything looks way nicer than it ever did in the
Yeah.
original Star Trek series.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. There's no touch screens.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's still like the old-timey looking keyboards and all
Right.
that stuff
Right.
and the ships still have the same sort of aesthetic, even the screens with the black and green writing
Yeah.
yeah, I think people that do those sort of things, and obviously as someone that's an artist like yourself, you notice those sort of aesthetic choices. I really respect when people stick to that. I guess like even was Romulus still had a bit of that. It still seemed a little like it had a foot in both worlds, but
Right.
I kind of really appreciated this one and how it sort of like feels very much like it's part of the original Alien world.
Yeah, and I feel like they give a little more, they make it seem more reasonable that people want these crazy, deadly, scary, creepy aliens
Mhm.
for fixing cancer and
Mhm.
fixing our bodies and longevity of life. Like, okay, I would probably risk a lot for that too. Like, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
You know,
It gives more reason to like because the first one was kind of vague when Ash was trying to get it because it's like a weapon, it could be a weapon, but it's like what are
right,
you going to do if you release that thing on Earth? It's not just going to attack your enemies and then listen to you.
right,
So the
right,
idea that they have this sort of menagerie of alien life forms that they've kind of acquired um, in order to advance science, but also showing how they've sort of incorporated a third option besides a human, android, cybernetic, and now people that are
right.
like humans that become cybernetics. Like it's a very interesting way about solving life. The guy that plays the nerdy sort of head of that division with the kids, he was in an episode of the Black Mirror that was like one of my favorite episodes of that show called uh Lock Henry, I think it was, which was like did you watch the show?
I did, I
You remember
did.
that episode?
I, I
It,
think so.
it was the kid that was doing like a documentary about a serial killer in his hometown.
Okay.
I mean, spoiler, but the his parents actually were the killers, and he didn't know. Like the dad had
Oh, okay.
died, and that seeming like the dad died killing the serial killer, but actually his parents were like weird sex killers and the mom sort of leaves him the evidence to finish his movie and it's like it sort of breaks him creatively. It's a super interesting concept, but it
Right.
was really really executed in a beautiful way and I was happy to see that actor get more work because I thought that he did really well in that episode.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's the newest project. Is there anything on the horizon you can talk about that's coming down the
Um,
pipe?
Right now, I'm just trying to still get back on my feet after just dealing with a crazy beginning to this year.
Hmm.
Um, so like just recently finally got an apartment uh just a few weeks ago. So
Oh, okay.
um,
So it's like,
yeah.
are you starting like a second chapter of a life, or is that where you're at
Well,
now?
I was in the Eaton Canyon fires in
Oh, I'm so
Los
sorry to hear that. I
Angeles.
didn't know that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so lost pretty much everything that I have and a lot of my artwork, like all my personal art, like very large paintings,
Oh, dear God.
even like the cover to the Fifth Beatle, the painted cover, all the choice double page spreads that I really just cherished, and I had them framed, and they're too big for me to carry. And man, yeah, so much is gone. So kind of like putting the pieces back together, and right now just doing sporadic covers here and there, and
Mhm.
doing some commissions, and just trying to get settled in, um, and get back on track, get my license, all this other documents you need, and
Wow.
so it's a
Oh,
process,
I'm
and
so sorry. I didn't know.
yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
why I was saying. That's why I was saying I've just been a bit scatterbrained, and
Yeah, no, you totally have a good reason to be.
you know,
No need to
and then
apologize.
right in the midst of like that happening, because of the fires, that took me to downtown Los Angeles,
Hmm.
back to Dave Johnson to mention him again.
Hmm.
He kind of threw me a lifeline, and he said, "Hey, buddy, I know you're gonna need a place to work." He's like, "You should come downtown. I got a studio here in a really cool building." So I went down there, and like he gave me a place to work, and I liked it. And he's like, "Hey, if you like it and you want to stay, we'll just get a bigger spot here." So, by March or April, I at least had a place to work.
Mm.
And so I shared the studio with Dave, and he even was like, "Hey, you're not supposed to crash here, but if you need to crash here, well, I know you're looking for a place, you can." And so I was like just sleeping, a little futon mattress on the floor in my room in the studio, but enjoying downtown. And by chance, I met somebody just at a random wine bar, in LA, and um, so that certainly turned my year around. And
Oh, that's lovely.
she's super amazing, and very thankful. And that's why I'm here right now in Alabama, because she just moved here. So I'm here visiting, and then in a few weeks we'll go to Dragon Con in Atlanta.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's coming
Yeah,
up. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, the LA is I mean, I'm a big movie person. So I mean, it's kind of like a mecca at some point that I'd like to go and visit. I feel like it would be overwhelming. I feel like to be, in it, in the heart of it like that in the downtown area. So
Yeah, well, I'd say, well,
I mean, you have a lot of other reasons to be overwhelmed at the moment, so
I guess
that's
there's different hearts of it.
Mhm.
Like a big heart of the industry is Burbank,
Right.
for instance. Like whether Disney or Warner Brothers,
Mm,
the studios are right there in Burbank. Um, and you've got the Universal lot,
mm.
Warner Brothers lot, where they even give tours and stuff, and it's cool. Um,
Yeah, I visited the Universal Studios in Florida.
right.
Just because my wife and I, when we got married, we did our honeymoon down there and checked out, some of that. But the Halloween Horror Nights and stuff like that they do down there
Yeah.
is really neat. I'm a big horror person, so it was cool to see that and see just little aspects of that. But yeah, I just feel like there's such a rich history of film there that would be a dude I know that like was talking one time about wanting to do a almost like a pub crawl there because he has like some friends that live there and they have like all these famous bars where certain people drank and the
Right.
pictures are on the
Right.
walls and stuff like that to kind of like on the strip that you can kind of go and do it. I always thought it'd be fun to do something like that
Oh
and
yeah.
really get into the world. Um, well, that's awesome. Well, wow. That must have been a terrible event. I'm so sorry to hear that. Uh,
It was, but um, you come out of it, and nobody that I know some people did pass away, but
Mm,
when everybody that you know and your friends and your pets, you all at least get out alive. I
mhm.
call that a win.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if it's your art, it's still just a material possession, and you kind of have to learn to let things go.
That's the right attitude. I feel like that, the older I get, the more I'm like, you hold on to these boxes of things, and then eventually you're like, it's been sitting in my basement for 10 years. Um, but I kind of like recently heard this Buddhist sort of thing where they talk about um, like if you have a favorite mug, say, and it's like your favorite mug, you love it every day. When the mug breaks, eventually you'll be upset because the mug is now gone. But like this is Buddhist sort of way of looking at things, where it's like the mug is always broken. So like when it finally does break, of course it's broken. It was always broken. It's sort of a way to like, I guess, not set yourself up for disappointment. It seems
Right.
like a nice way to think about it, but in practical, fixtures, it might not be the easiest way, especially when things happen. But yeah, there's the wildfire thing is there's a couple going on in Nova Scotia right now as well, near Halifax, which is the capital, and out in a few other various areas. But yeah, that's what I worry about. I'm a big animal person. I feel like if it was, I could let stuff go, but leaving my pets behind is something I don't think I could.
Yeah.
I could remedy. Somebody commented that if they do a shutdown in your area and you're not home, they won't allow you to go to get your pets from your home. And I was like, well, they're
I
going to have
know.
to shoot me or arrest me because I couldn't stand by and let that happen. So, but well, I'm really glad to hear that that they have friends helping you out and that you're building towards
Yeah.
rebuilding the life. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I said, I'm very thankful that friends, family, the comic book community,
Hmm.
strangers,
Hmm.
I helped out at some donation spots like right after the fires, and you're kind of reminded because we get cynical, especially as we get older,
Hmm.
and you feel like maybe there's too many, selfish people in the world or assholes or what have you. But you realize like, no, there's a whole lot of people doing the right thing
Hmm.
and helping each other. And it was beautiful.
Yeah, that's lovely to hear. It's a good that's a good lesson to take away from it, right? I mean, usually when things are at their worst is when people are at their best, and it's nice to be reminded of that, I guess, in a troubling time. So,
Mhm.
well, is there like you mentioned you're taking commissions and stuff? Is there a website or something where people can go visit you to make those sort of commission requests?
Well, if you want to buy my art or set up commissions, you can go to essentialsequential.com.
Nice, beautiful. All right,
There's a
well,
bunch of other artists that are also managed through that site as well.
mhm,
Arthur
perfect.
Adams, Dave Johnson, Matteo Scalero, just to name a few.
Wow, very cool. Well, thanks for being on the show, Andrew. This is awesome. It's really, really great chatting with you. And as I said, like being, I turned 40 in a week, so I was right in that sweet spot in the 90s as a teenager when I was discovering the Starman comics. So it was really an honor for me to get to meet you and get the chance to talk to you. So,
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate
oh,
it.
thanks. You have yourself a great day.
All right, you too.
All right, bye bye.
All right, bye.
You have it, my conversation with Andrew Robinson. A great chat, great guy. I did not know that he'd lost his home in the Eden Lake fires, so that was kind of a surprise to me to learn when we were chatting. But I'm very happy to see that he's bouncing back as best he can, soldiering on, and has some new wonderful things to look forward to in his life. So I'm very happy to hear that. And yeah, it was a real honor talking to Andrew. I love his work. His painted covers were certainly game changing to me. I mean, everyone knows Alex Ross. Everyone knows some of those other guys that are doing the painted cover thing, the painted book thing. But Andrew has something unique and different. I mean, Alex does too, but Andrew's is different. He's an artist. His style was different, and it's one that always caught my attention, caught my eye, and really lent itself wonderfully to the books that he worked on. So I was very happy to have him on the show. Very happy to have you listen, and very happy just to be here. It's been a bit of a run. We've been doing this since 2020. We're now to 2025. This is episode 146, and we're chugging along at a good pace. So, more to come, more to come. Keep tuning in. So I'll be back next week with another fun-filled episode. Be sure to tune in. But in the meantime, stay safe, have fun, read some comics, read some Starman comics, read some Andrew C. Robinson comics, read the Fifth Beatle. Looks like a super cool book, and I think it's well worth your time because it won a ton of awards. It's an interesting story. It's historical, and it's got some beautiful art. So check it out. This program is a proud part of the Swear to Pod Network.